So we are here in GSSCORE for the Public Administration Mains Paper 2023 discussion. Welcome on this platform, myself Rajiv Chaudhary, Associate Member, Indian Institute of Public Administration. So straight away let us take this. So this is Public Administration Paper 1 of 2023. When we look into the paper this year, we find that a balance has been created and the basics are there. Those have been directly asked as question, and then some implications are also there to check out whether the student has understood the basic concepts only or has got some temperament to find application of those into administrative dimensions. So questions are very nice. Few questions are little typical. Those are out of the box, but most of the questions are there, and whosoever student have prepared basics properly, they would have done very good in the examination. So one by one, let us take up. So the compulsory question, these are 10 marker questions. And the question first, that is, public administration horizons have been expanding to cater the complex needs of citizens in globalized era. So herein the basic thing is to be understood and put into care is horizon, and then have been expanding and in the globalized era. These are the three key points of this question. And basically this question is there from the introduction chapter, wherein the ever expanding role of public administration is there. So that we have studied in length in the classroom, specifically in the perspective that this ever expansion is there in the contemporary world also. So therein the things, those have changed from the place to TPA to the post NPM, and service delivery context, all those things are required to be included, and the special emphasis has to be given in post NPM and post NPM, because that is the place wherein the globalization got started. So 1990s and onward, and in that perspective we find that number of areas, those have expanded the horizons for the scope of public administration, and therein we could include the impact of key factors. Those are like globalization, and for the reason of globalization, lot of things got included that expanded the horizon of scope of public administration, and therein the scope of market has been given importance. And thereafter in NPM era and post NPM era, the conditions are there wherein service delivery has been given importance. So with the inclusion of the market, and in post NPM the service delivery and post-Weberian conditions evolved. All those have increased the horizon, and that is the perspective of this answer. And so therein globalization is there, then technological advancement. Technological advancement is the place. Then a multicultural society is another important dimension to be discussed. Multicultural. For the reason of the globalization, that global village concept is there, and then the society got influenced by different cultures. So cultural society evolved, and then a number of challenges were there, and that made the policy making so complex. So complex policy challenges. These are the important points. Environmental concern is another important one. Environmental concerns, another important dimension that got included in post-NPM, post-globalization phase, and happened to be very important dimension of responsibility and aspirations by the people. So social media and information dissemination, transparency and accountability. PPP is another induction. Aging problem, population is another important thing, because for the reason of the development in science, technological and health and all dimensions, the age expectancy increased, and so the aged people are there found, and for them the responsibility of public administration is very high. And then we find, and specifically for them who are there living below poverty line, and therein we find the government of India is there with number of such programs. One of them is old age pension. So lot of such important things are there, and then makes the answer. And one conclusion is to be given that it is ever expanding to cater the need of the people, to cater the aspirations of the people. Question number 2, or say 1B. We are here discussing the compulsory questions, 10 marker questions. It says efficiency in the specialized sense in an organization's capacity to offer effective inducements in sufficient quantity. So by this statement, straightway we come to understand that this is Bernard, Chester Bernard. And Chester Bernard satisfaction contribution equilibrium. Satisfaction contribution equilibrium, and in that perspective, all those that has got those have got references of different inducements. And then inducement in the perspective of general and specific. General and specific inducements, and the explanation is there, because there is one of the condition key to retain the employees, to get employees motivated. There is need to outweigh the contribution by means of satisfaction, and sustainability of organization depends that on the capacity that the organization is capable of paying satisfaction larger than the contribution. So in that perspective, the answer has to be written, and then that those referred for general inducement and referred for specific inducement. In that perspective, emphasizing that the social dimension of inducement happen to be rather more important. Socio psychological dimension of inducement. So all these, question number 1, question number 2, these happen to be bare basic questions, and those we have discussed in the classroom specifically. And those who have studied basics properly, they have been able to write this answer. Then the next question, that is question number 1 and C. The process of decisions is largely techniques of narrowing choice. So straightway it brings us to Simon's decision making. In Simon's decision making, he has given the concept of rational decision making, and therein he has proposed about those 3 phases through which the decision can be taken, and if all the 3 phases could be specifically adopted and performed, then the best decision is possible. And therein, when intelligence activity is there, collection of all the material, and then design. In design, the alternatives are evolved, and then based upon the cost consequence analysis, there is process of narrowing down. Narrowing down of the choices, and then ultimately on the basis of cost consequence analysis and evolution of the utility, the choice activities based upon which the decisions are taken. So whole course of action, whole course of the procedure referred by Herbert Simon has to be discussed, and that is the process of decision making, and that is largely narrowing down the choice. And in course of that, we find that various contexts could be there given as reference, because it's to give application dimension. There could be various references like there is overload of information, resource efficiency, bounded rationality, risk management, goal alignment, and for all these the information those are available and the designing activity then has to reduce the choice, narrowing down the alternatives to reach the best decision for effectiveness, and in course of that the narrowing down system is there. Thereafter 1D. Therein the question seems to be from the GS. The judiciary is playing more positive role in policy formulation, not just in limiting government access, but also in mandating them. So, the third branch of government with the wider approach of public administration, judiciary, and is playing positive role in policy making. And is mandating them, that means mandating for implementation. As well. So therein we find that judiciary is there playing, and it is not just an agency that is there to limit the functions, limit the actions of government. Right? In that perspective, we'll take up the role of judiciary in the perspective of policy making. So therein, with the wider approach, the process of policy making or policy formulation needs to be discussed with a special emphasis of the role of judiciary. So again, in the public policy chapter, in the classroom, such discussions have been done with the wider approach. So, with the wider approach of the meaning of public administration and the role of public administration and the importance of judiciary in the perspective of public policy making. That reference is required to be given, and thereafter, all those are positive aspects wherein the judiciary plays very important role in the perspective of the policy making and its implementation. So there is the judiciary is there doing everything, taking all initiatives and imposing control for the reason of protection of human rights and liberty. Protection of human rights and liberties of the people, and in course of that it is there interpreting and upholding the constitutional provisions, and is there in the position to force the government to frame policies in accordance with the constitution, to ensure the rights, fundamental rights and human rights of citizens to be safeguarded. There are number of checks and balances. Number of checks and balances, and that is very important in a democratic system. So the judiciary serves as critical component of the system of checks and balances, because whatever are being performed by the executive and legislature, whether they are performing things in accordance with the constitution, which is there to protect the good of the people, is decided by the judiciary, and for that judiciary is there working as guardian of the constitution. This judiciary is there also to address the gap, policy gaps, addressing policy gaps. It also ensures and promotes accountability. Promotes accountability, wherein the social justice is ensured. And the judiciary has got the right that it can hold the government officials accountable and responsible and ensure that the policies made by the legislature must be implemented. So that way we find that the judiciary can compel the government agencies to take specific action. In this regard, you could cite example of the NGT, National Green Tribunal, that has been evolved on the directives of the Supreme Court. Social justice is the another one. So in course of ensuring social justice, judiciary is there to ensure implementation of not only the fundamental rights but the DPSP also. But in course of these, the positive dimensions are there, but some challenges are also there. So this question will require certain reference of challenges and concerns. So the challenges and a brief reference of challenge that the critics argue that unelected judges should not be given the ultimate authority to decide what is being done right or wrong, because of the lack of policy expertise. They happen to be expert of law, and then in the administrative law we have got discussions upon such references. There could be political biasness. So perception of political bias in judicial decision can undermine the political public trust and the judiciary and its role and its policy formulation. Potential overreach, that is a negative dimension. So courts may lack the capacity and resources to effectively monitor and enforce the policy, and risk of judicial overreach is there. So by this way, the judiciary is playing a positive role, more positive role in course of implementation and formulation as well. One E, and that is again very basic question, that is on Citizens Charter. So Citizen Charter focus is on empowerment, empowering citizens concerning public service delivery. So Citizens Charter and public service delivery for citizens, that is the core. And therein, what is Citizen Charter? A brief definition and its objectives. So therein it focuses on transparency, accountability, efficiency. Trying to give one-stop solution. So in course of public service delivery, the Citizen Charter is there to ensure this. And then accountability, transparency, empowerment through information. Most importantly, redress of grievances. That is very important. If the quality of the service is not delivered to the citizens, then citizens should have the opportunity that it could ask for compensation, and that is grievance redress or grievance redress mechanism. And then participation and feedback, efficiency and performance measurement, awareness to people. These are different dimensions. Specifically, empowerment of vulnerable section. These are different dimensions wherein we find that the requirement of discussion is there. And specifically in the globalized era, we find that the horizon of public administration is expanding a lot, wherein the ultimate objective of the public administration is to make sure the public service delivery, effective public service delivery, and there is a lot of increase in the aspirations of people. So these are the 10 marker questions and compulsory one. Thereafter, we'll come down to the optional questions, wherein one could write or one could choose another other question from next other section. So there is another question, that is 2A, and that is there upon folly. Now herein, folly has not given any direct idea in this regard, and on the basis of her views, the answer has to be evolved. Like even it says ki Foley firmly advocated for cultivating interdependence and collaboration. Interdependence and collaboration among the individuals as the key to resolving conflict and establishing more harmonious and encompassing social structure. So herein, in first look, the question reflects about the conflict management for the constructive conflict and integration idea. But herein, there is a need to identify all those different conditions in her views, based upon which the interdependence and the collaboration, that is cooperation, have been suggested or have evolved. So in her different views. So one brief introduction of Foley. For the reason of her being a bridging gap between classical and neoclassical, and some references of dynamic administration, and then coming down to straightway her ideas, as it's a long question, and that is integration of differences. Integration of differences. So that is constructive conflict idea, wherein she advocates for integrating them through a process of collaboration. She saw conflict as opportunity to create, for the creative solution of the problem. And whatever the solution creatively reached, she named it integration. And she proposed that that will be quite a new solution, and that will work for all, because none of the parties will surrender their real demand. So that is therein will be possible through the collaboration, cooperation. Circular response. Therein, she proposes that the leader should not only influence the group, but should receive reflections, influence from the group also. So he should be influenced by the behavior and aspirations of the group, and that is again collaboration and interdependence, because good of the organization or effective task performance of the organization depends upon this collaboration between the two, interdependence between the two, because the leader would be able to perform only with the help of the followers, and followers find directions, find involvement, motivation, and a lot of other things from the leader. And the collaborative condition, cooperative condition is this also in circular response, that the leader is expected to find services of the expert available in the group. So all these refer to a condition of collaborative and interdependent conditions to resolve the conflict. He is there to refer power with. Although he says power over is the condition that is difficult to get rid of, but she proposes that the power with is the condition which is the most comfortable condition. And therein again, when she says it is coactive power and small power groups are being included into one to evolve power which is there working for the good of the group. So that is again an interdependent and collaborative conditions. She has referred about the group dynamics. Wherein she believed understanding how individuals interact with group is essential for effective collaboration and so to say conflict management, conflict resolution. So her work laid the foundation of modern group dynamics and teamwork. And that is managing the conflict. He has also given the concept of coordination in planning. So principle of coordination. That is the other place wherein interdependence and collaboration is there, and she has postulated 4 important principles in this regard. So collaboration and interdependence happen to be the key element of effective coordination. She has proposed it, and we agree to that. So all these references are supposed to be, and one more is there, that is community and social integration. Community and social integration, wherein she emphasized upon that key understanding how individual interact with group, and that is very essential. And in course of that, the communities and its structure to encourage, say, cooperation and interdependence among the sorry. So the cooperation and interdependence among the residents, and see, envisioned a more harmonious and inclusive social structure where individuals work together and are there to address the common good. So all these are the ideas, views, and that is there to cultivate interdependence and the collaboration among the individuals, and all those are there to help for the conflict resolution and establishing harmonious and all encompassing social structure. Thereafter, the next question, that is on PPP. That is on public-private partnership. Now, this is also again one of the topic that is specifically discussed in the class. We have discussed those, and same question is there. So, public-private partnership have been justified in various ways over the period of time that seeks to privatize public service for the profit of private entities, and that is opinion-based question. What is your take? Justified in various ways over the period of time to seek private public service delivery for the profit of private. It is opinion-based question, and in general, the opinion goes against it. So, PPP, so first of all, what is PPP? And its objective. That should be the introduction. And then, how do we justify the functions of PPP? So, there are various ways that role is justified, that it evolves efficiency, partnership, or say participation, of government and private. There is innovation. There is innovation among, and then investment is there. Not only investment, the private partner is there to take some risk also. So, risk sharing and risk management. All these are the areas wherein we find that PPP performs very good and is a matter of present time, recent time, wherein the involvement of private sector in the process of development is there. However, we find that it has got some risk also, risk areas. Wherein we find the cost is associated. So, cost factor, accountability, is another important factor, transparency and equity. These are the areas wherein we find that the PPP is and its credit is on stake. Now, when it is a matter, do you agree to this proposition for the reason that it seeks the private public service, and that is, it seeks the private public service, right? But that is for the profit of private entities. So, as a matter of fact, the PPP is a useful tool for improving efficiency and innovation in public service delivery. But they should be used with the caution and with clear-cut understanding and identification for their participation and potential risk. So it is important to ensure that PPP contracts are fair, are transparent, and that the government has adequate mechanism in place to hold private companies accountable. This is also important to note that it is not always best solution for privatizing the public services. Number of such areas are there wherein the privatization is not expected. So in some cases it may be more efficient and effective for the government to continue the services by itself. So there should be a combination of the two to perform the task, to find the objectives attained according to the requirement. Thereafter, the next question. That is organization theory based question. And herein understanding is checked. To what extent student has been able to read and understand the organization theories in totality. The question is, the organization theory is not a single theory with a loosely knit of many approaches to organizational analysis, and it provides different answer to different situations. So all the organizational theories is not a single theory with a loosely knit of many approaches to organizational analysis, and it provides different answer. That is again important, to different situations. So again here the question cannot be directly discussed, and the student will have to answer this on the basis of his understanding. But again it's a very simple question with a broader look, and therein the students need to understand and refer all the three approaches on which the different theories are there, like the classical approach, neoclassical, and modern. So wherein the objective is efficiency economy, and then the theories are like the SMT, CMT, ideal bureaucracy. Neoclassical theory, that is based on psychological, socio-psychological or humanistic dimension. Humanistic dimension, and wherein the theories are like HRT, and then dynamic administration, functions of executive, Bernard and all. And then modern approach, that is integration, integrated approach, all inclusive. And then we find that there is system, and then say ecological, contingency, now this is there the answer that the organizational theories are not a single theory. So there are different theories with a loosely knit of many approaches in organization analysis, and it provides different situations, different answers to different situations. So for the reason of structure, the condition is there. For the reason of human relation, the conditions are there. For the reason of integrated study, the reasons are there. Not only that, and beyond that, we find that critical perspective theory is there. Jargon Habermas. So that way the answer is there, and need is to refer these. The answer is done. Okay, and with the explanation of these, it will automatically get reflected that there are different answers to different situations. And herein we could have the reference of folly. With the reference of this critical perspective theory, wherein law of situation is the frame of reference. And under this, when Foley suggests for a depersonalization, of order, and thereafter repersonalization. This depersonalization and repersonalization are there for the reason of the situation, and there are different situation and different answers. The next is intrinsic motivation in comparison to extrinsic motivation leads to enhanced performance and creativity. So basically this is a question of Hertzberg. Again, it's a basic question. Two-factor theory, Hertzberg, and that intrinsic and extrinsic motivation factors. So Hertzberg, when is there? So introduction of Hertzberg. And getting it correlated with the two-factor theory. And thereafter, the reference of the motivational factor and maintenance factor. And those happen to be the intrinsic and extrinsic. So when it is a matter of motivational factors, this is intrinsic, and maintenance factor, that is extrinsic factors of motivation, and that is the frame of reference, the intrinsic motivation and the extrinsic motivation. Answer is done. And for the reason of the motivational factors and maintenance factors, those references are required. The motivational factors, or so to say, the intrinsic factors, happen to be psychological motivation. And the examples like the feeling of achievement, recognition, work, challenging work itself, increased responsibility, and that then the maintenance factors, that extrinsic factors, that companies' policies, technical supervision, interrelation with superior, subordinate and peers, working conditions, salary, job security, status, etc. And therein the motivation factor leads to enhancement. Intrinsic factor happens to be more effective for the performance enhancement and creativity, and that is the psychological dimension of motivation. Again, this is a very basic question, and we have discussed in the class. We have discussed in the class in foundation course. Another question that is on RTI. And this is from the portion of accountability and control. And again, this is a direct question. Says that the backlash against right to information by the state hampered the citizens' right to know, and examine and point out the need to amend RTI to provide protection to RTI activists. So now herein, this question, this word included, makes it a little different. So and backlash against the RTI. And then the emphasis has to be given. The need to amend. Basically, herein the reform has to be suggested, so that the activists of RTI activists could be protected. Indian answer is done. So the brief of RTI for the reason of its meaning and objective. Very brief reference. And in that reference, the reforms. That has been referred here, that needed to amend the RTI so that the effectiveness of RTI could be improved. And in this regard, several factors have been suggested. ARC2 is also there to suggest. So a lot of things could be taken up from the ARC2 report. And then some to to refer some of them. The suggestions like strengthening the whistleblower protection. Strengthening whistleblowers protection. That is very important. That RTI activists could be supported. Prevention of retaliation. Preventing retaliation. Anonymous filing of RTI requests. Now, this is a very important thing, because in general, we find that RTI is not utilized for the good of people, rather it is utilized for one's own lust being fulfilled, protected. So, anonymous filing of RTI. Establishing independent body to oversight it or to monitor it. Independent monitoring. Monitoring body. Increasing awareness and training. Training to the government officials as well as bringing awareness for the people also. Digital security measures, strict punishment for attack on activists, transparent record and record keeping for the information requests, timely disposal of the cases, and all the activities being monitored and being reported. By all these means, a number of them. the protection could be provided to the activists. Next is again, it's a basic question. And therein, Redin's behavioral theory. So, Redin model of leadership added the third dimension. In the Ohio studies and Blake and Morton study. So herein there is need to have reference of Ohio, studies on leadership, with the reference of the leadership styles referred, initiating, structure and consideration. And then Blake and Morton. For his managerial grid. Both of these are two-dimension theory, production and employees. With the reference of these two, there is need to give reference of the Redin's theory of leadership, wherein third dimension has been added, and that is effectiveness. That concerns the effect when a leader employs a style of particular style of leadership in particular situation. This is also known as tri-dimensional grid. So herein managerial grid is there, two dimension, and Redin's grid is tri-dimension. And those grids, three grids, have to be referred in the answer. So Redin's model adds the dimension of effectiveness success to the leadership framework, emphasizing the importance of not just how leaders lead, but also how successful are they in course of achieving the outcome or in course of attaining the output of the organization, and then has to be concluded as improvement in leadership theory. Thereafter, the next question, again, the question is, they are similar to the previous we discussed, and that is again Hertzberg's theory. So two-factor theory entails certain factors in a workplace resulting in job satisfaction, while other is absent, lead to dissatisfaction. So herein those two factors have to be analyzed for their impact. And requirement is to conclude that both of them are not having similar output. And then that hygiene factor and motivational factor. And their output on the organization. In the perspective of their presence and absence. In the perspective of their presence and absence, and that is their key. If the hygiene factors are absent, if the hygiene factors are absent, dissatisfaction is generated. But if they are present, it does not generate satisfaction. It rather restricts dissatisfaction. Rather restricts dissatisfaction. On the other hand, when the motivation factors are there, if they are absent, they do not generate dissatisfaction. They do not generate dissatisfaction, and if they are present, they generate satisfaction. Now, that is the basic of this question. And there is need to describe that. That is done. Okay, while so it's when it says entails certain factors, that is hygiene factor in workplace relating to job. No, certain factors in workplace resulting in job satisfaction. So that is motivation factor. And if absent, leads to dissatisfaction. हाइजीनिटिक लिखा था. No. Certain factors in workplace resulting in job satisfaction, while other is its absence leads to dissatisfaction. So this is motivation, and this is hygiene. Next question, that is on administrative law. subordinate legislation has its drawbacks, and this does not mean, this does not negate the fact that it is also having benefits. Simple question that is discussed in the class in basic course. What are the drawbacks and benefits of subordinate legislation? Drawbacks and benefits. So discuss what is subordinate legislation. So meaning and objective of subordinate legislation, that is administrative law. And then limitations and benefits to be referred. Like the limitations are there, drawbacks are there. There is a limited accountability. Possibility of potential abuse is there. There is complexity and over-regulation possible. Most importantly, there is a lack of public awareness. A number of. And then for the reason of benefits, that this is efficient and is capable of doing things immediately as per the requirement. And there is service of expert, because this administrative law is framed by the executives who happen to be expert of their area. There is flexibility, as it does not require the ratification of parliament and could be issued by just executive order. Its implementation becomes easier. And that is in the perspective of the need of the local requirement, local conditions, as per the objectives given by the legislature. Specialization is there. So all those are the benefits of the administrative law. Again, this is discussed in the class in length. So there is no limit of the content. So that was for section A. Now, section B. And then in the fifth question happens to be the compulsory and marker question. Again, it's a different question related to the French Republic. The Constitution of French Republic does not permit, or does not prohibit the ministers from being the leader of political parties. They have been permitted to join the political party. Now, it is customary that ministers should not occupy such position to ensure impartiality. Customary that minister should not occupy such a position to ensure impartiality of their function. So the conditions have been evolved in French Republic Constitution, wherein the restrictions have not been imposed, they have not been restricted. But ethically, morally, and the custom is there, customary conditions are there, that the ministers do not hold such positions in executive. That dilution could occur. Dilution in the functions could occur. And that is to ensure impartiality. And for that, the respect why this has been made customary. And even after having the opportunity, they do not join. The reasons are like the separation of power. Now, separation of power is a mechanism wherein the executive, legislature, judiciary work separately. So, when a minister who is the leader of a political party, it can blur the lines between the executive and legislative branch. So, there is concept of separation of power and paying respect to this concept of separation of power. The ministers do not join. Neutrality of executive. Neutrality of executive, and ministers are appointed to serve the interest of entire nation and not just for the interest of the political party. So once elected, the prime minister, the minister, happened to be minister of whole country, not minister of that particular political party. So holding the position of a party leader can create a conflict of interest. And so as minister may prioritize the objective of party over the broader interest of the country. So to maintain this impartiality and neutrality, the executive branch ministers are traditionally expected to distance from the active political functions, political party politics, for the cohesion of government. For the cohesion of the government, that in a parliamentary system, the government need to maintain a cohesion and unity effectively with the governments, the people. When a minister is also leader of a political party, it can lead to internal division within the government, as other ministers may perceive the party leader minister as having more influence or authority. So this can disrupt the functioning of the government. Public perception. This public perception happens to be very crucial, specifically in a democracy. If ministers simultaneously hold party leadership positions, it can give the impression that government is more interested in the party politics than governing for the benefit of the citizens, development growth of the country. And this can erode the public trust in the government and its ability to act on non-partisan basis. Political stability. To ensure political stability and smooth functioning of government, it is often considered advisable for the minister to focus solely on their ministerial responsibilities, ministerial duties. So this allows them to work with members of different political parties and the coalition in pursuit of common goals without baggage of the political leadership. And all these bring effectiveness. So in this perspective, although it is not restricted, but it is expected to ensure impartial functioning. Even after being member of a political party, they will not join any, or they will ensure that refraining the customary practice of minister is there, that they'll refrain from holding such positions to maintain the impartial functioning, thereby ensuring separation of power condition, say neutrality of executive branch, government cohesion condition, public perception, political stability, etc. The next question is for MIS. The ultimate goal of using MIS is to increase values and productivity in the organization. So benefits of MIS has to be discussed. What are the advantages of use or utility or benefits? Those have to be discussed. So, brief introduction. Of MIS, Management Information System, and then merits, or so to say. Advantages. That those help to achieve the goal of organization. Those are there to increase the productivity. And likewise, there is data centralization and accuracy. So in course of the brief, that MIS is there to collect, store, retrieve and share the data. It collects the raw data, processes it, concludes, and then stores. And as per the requirement of the executive, the conclusions are provided. If requirement is there, then the raw data are also given, on the basis of which the conclusions have been made. And is there to track the development of the organization, who are the employees, and to what extent one employee has been able to contribute the objective attainment of the organization. So benefits are, first of all, that there is data centralization. Data centralization, that happens to be and is maintained with accuracy. So data centralization and accuracy is there. MIS helps to streamline organizational process. So, streamlining the organizational processes, informed decision making, enhanced education, resource optimization, performance monitoring, risk management, scalability, data-driven insight. Data-driven insight helps in strategic planning. So these are different benefits. So to create more efficient, informed and responsive organization that maximizes its values and productivity, the MIS is there to support, to help. And it achieves this by improving all these data accuracy, streamlining operations, facilitating informed decision, etc., etc. Cost benefit analysis is of great help to the policymakers in framing policies, providing advices in course of developing public policy. So, cost value analysis, CBA, is a tool, efficient, valuable tool for policymakers when it comes regulating the policies and providing advice to the executives, ministers in course of developing a public policy. And it helps decision making, evaluates the potential impact of the proposed policy or project in a systematic and objective manner. So the means, the ways, this CBA helps policymaker. So brief introduction of CBA, that is cost benefit analysis. And then how does it help the policymaker? And therein we find that it is there to provide a structured framework for evaluating policy options, allowing policymakers to make decisions and based on data analysis rather than subjective options or say political considerations. So that is, there is objective decision making is ensured. Objective decision making assists and helps in comparative analysis and assessment. Comparative analysis and assessment. Resource allocation. These are the important dimensions like transparency, risk assessment, long-term perspective, accountability. Benefit to cost ratio, stakeholder engagement, policy innovation. All these are there identified on the basis of cost benefit analysis. And so it happens to be of great help to the policymakers in course of developing public policy. Though this cost benefit analysis has got some limitations, some challenges are also there, like difficulty of valuing intangible benefits in course of policy making. Those ethical considerations are not covered. The potential for bias in data and assumptions. So these are not identified. Nevertheless, when used appropriately and transparently, this CBA can be a powerful tool for informing and improving the public policy making by assisting the policy makers. This question 5D is from financial administration with implication of the second paper. So herein all the initiatives, those have been taken by the government of India in recent days in course of the monetary and fiscal policy. Some examples could be given, should be cited. So the question is, monetary policy and fiscal policy happen to be two different tools, are different but both are used to regulate economy. So the monetary policy and fiscal policy happen to be tools of government for the reason of development of people, we could say country. And then both of them are having their different means. So, and then the means are required to be discussed. How do they work? The tools with the help of which they work. So, therein we find when it is monetary policy, then it is RBI, so central bank. But when it is a matter of fiscal policy, then it is budget. It is the government to perform the task. When tools are there for the monetary policy, therein we find that it refers for the prime lending rates, different interest rates, CRR, SLR, bank rate, repo rate, etc., etc. And when it is a matter of fiscal policy, then it is budget as tool. And herein the monetary policy is there to control the availability of the money in the market. So that is market stability. In case of inflation, it is there to exercise its tools. Market stability, condition of inflation. And when it is matter of fiscal policy, then it is there working out for the economy growth. It is there to develop the infrastructure. It is there to control, regulate the inequality or reduce so these are, so that difference. So with the brief introduction of the two policies, of monetary policy and fiscal policy, with the brief introduction, the differences have to be discussed, and then with the difference, conclusion should be, has to be there, that both are having the same objective, that is development of economy in a different mechanism, right? So with the different mechanism, the objective is the same one. So that is monetary policy and fiscal policy, though happen to be different, but both are used to regulate the economy. And the objective is development. The next is (5E). Instead of conflicting, the employee-employer relation should be of mutual reliance. Again, the straight question is there from SMT and mental revolution. SMT and mental revolution. That has to be explained. So these are so basic questions that are discussed in the class, even in foundation course. The next is CP and its developments in the post-globalization phase. So new CPA is the frame of reference. The studies of comparative public administration got momentum in 80s and 90s, and a new objective and orientation than its previous counterparts. So critically examine. So in the phase of 80s and 90s, it realistically got momentum. That means the objective that was there of CPA could realistically, practically be addressed, got momentum during 80s and 90s, and therein it evolved new objectives and orientation in course of its studies. So therein there is need to refer the evolution of CPA. Evolution of CPA is there, and right from the days of economic depression. Means 30s and onward. One phase of development was there, and thereafter in say post Second World War, the development was there. Thereafter we find that in 60s under the leadership of Riggs, CAG was there, comparative administration group, worked till 73, and then it got dropped. So brief reference of this. And thereafter in 80s, contribution of Farrell Heady, O.P. Dwivedi, in the perspective of the revival of CPA. Those have to be referred. And then all those concerns, those evolved. Those got addressed. So globalization was one of the reason of the emergence of post-80s conditions of CPA. Of course, efforts of Farrell Heady and Dwivedi. Technological advancements were there. By this time, contribution from the scholars of Eastern countries of the world also came up. Previously, before that it was, before 70, it was totally that of the Western philosophy. Western countries, specifically America, to give all the thought process. All those led to emergence of the new CPA, and therein we find new objectives came up, and supra and sub institution comparison started. Market-based opinions evolved, post-bureaucratic conditions evolved, policy implementations happened to be the concern. In all such conditions, we find that normative and empirical global perspective, east to west previously was, west to east previously it was there, now east to west is also there. All those developments and the new objectives adopted, specifically for the reason of globalization, the comparative study of the different conditions, different countries, and the studies of study of public administration being conducted in the perspective of ecology of administration. So all those got addressed during this. And that is, so the reference is the momentum of 80s and 90s and the new objectives. Thereafter, the next question is from financial administration. And again, a simple question. That is ZBB. So zero-based budgeting is based on program efficiency rather than budget history. So in the light of this, examine the advantages. Straight question is there of ZBB. If the advantages are written, automatically that will. So in conclusion, there is a requirement to coordinate that the advantages of ZBB is there, improvement suggested in the traditional budgeting system. And so the advantages are say cost efficiency, because if any single penny that would be included in the zero-based budget system for the expenditure with the program package. So then strict evaluation of all programs right from scratch is done. And that ensures the cost efficiency. Program evaluation. Program evaluation is there. Resource allocation. Resource allocation on the basis of the relevance, importance. So it does not have any consideration that the program was being run since last year or since many years. Only after proving that it has got relevance and output, the inclusion in the budget is there. Transparency. Transparency is there. Innovation and creativity, risk mitigation. Continuous improvement, cost control, strategic alignment. All these are the advantages of zero-based budget that brings improvement in the traditional budget system. So the conclusion has to be made in such a way that is there to coordinate. Next is public policy making. So public policy making is an effort to apply the method of political analysis to policy areas but has concerned with processes inside the bureaucracy and stakeholders. Methods of political analysis but has concern with the processes inside the bureaucracy and stakeholders. So, brief introduction of public policy making. Brief introduction of public policy making. And it's a complex process and is multifaceted. That involves the development, implementation, evaluation of policies. Those are aimed for the societal development, social issue resolution, for the specific goal attainment. So practically, indeed, so it relies heavily on the political analysis. But it also encourages various elements including process, bureaucracy, the stakeholders, engagement of stakeholders. So what are the conditions when it is a matter of political analysis? So in course of that, there is, say, first of all, problem identification. What are the issues? What are the areas wherein the development has to occur? And then, based upon the problems being identified, the policy formulation is there. Policy formulation, and that involves a lot of areas of work. So all those. Once the problem is identified, the political analysis helps in formulating policy options that align with the government's political ideology, party platform, public opinion. And then all these go through legislative procedure. Legislative process in course of enactment. Now, in course of political analysis, one another important thing is put into consideration, that is political constraints. Political constraints. The political factors such as political opinion, interest, group influence, electoral considerations can significantly impact the policy making process. So policymakers must navigate all these constraints and consider their implication on policy making. So in course of policy making, the such political analysis are there. Then bureaucratic process. Bureaucratic processes. So first of all, it is there to advise the ministers, political masters. So neutral and impartial advice. And thereafter, whatever comes up through policy formulation have to be implemented. So policy implementation. Policy implementation. And all the bureaucrats are involved. Monitoring. So regulatory oversight. regulatory oversight. And of course, after those, whatever the feedback is there. So, feedback loops. In course of policy formulation, these are the functions of bureaucracy. And then the stakeholder engagement. So stakeholders are engaged in course of policy making, like first of all, people participation, public participation. And then involvement of interest groups, different interest groups. Different interest groups are there. And thereafter, the negotiations are there. And adjustment and compromise. We find that these are the mechanisms. So, public policy making is an effort to apply methods of political analysis to the policy areas, but concerns with the process of bureaucracy and stakeholders. So, all the three. So, that those have been discussed. So, and then the conclusion is there on a coordinated basis, that all three are essentially required for an effective policy making. This is related to personnel administration and has got a lot of concern with the second paper. Second paper interlinkages are there. So, in career advancement, civil services servants are necessitated to political superiors, and hence the phenomena poses challenge to civil service neutrality. So, two dimensions have to be discussed. In the career advancement, civil servants are necessitated to the political superiors. So, they have to work, they find career advancement, promotion, development with the help of the political masters, because the promotion and all those have to be done by only on the permission of the political leaders, and the processes as there could be recommendation for the promotion for the All India service people, but that must be ratified by the appointment committee, wherein the Prime Minister happens to be the chairman. Appointment committee is a committee of cabinet committee, is a cabinet committee of union government. Now, that way it is necessitated for the career advancement, the civil servants have to be dependent on the political masters, political superiors. And every civil servant wants the career advancement, and that is there to affect the service neutrality. A lot of challenges are there. So, the question requires analysis of the complex and important aspect of the relationship Relationship between the civil servants and the political masters, political superiors. So relationship between the civil servants and political superiors is complex but happen to be important for the government aspect. For both, for the reason of the policy making and for the reason of policy implementation. So that reflection is required to be given. And due to that interrelation, lot of challenges are there. So basic question is challenge. And the challenges are that loyalty to political superiors, because this career advancement is required by all. And that dilutes the neutrality because of the loyalty to political superiors. Because of the loyalty to political superiors. Lot of political influence is there. Political influence upon the bureaucrats. Patronage, favoritism, we can have the example of the extension of ED, extension of the service extension of the PMO, Chief or Principal Secretary. So that is patronage and favoritism. Risk of being politicized. So risk of politicization. There is pressure to confirm from the political side. Pressure to confirm. Accountability, interdependence. So for all these conditions, the neutrality is affected. Because the civil servants are dependent upon the political superiors for the reason of their career advancement, and then that functions as a pressure mechanism. And the civil servants succumb to compromise. And in course of that, we find that some suggestions should be given to get relieved of these challenges. And mechanisms to protect neutrality and professionalism have been evolved. Like there is code of conduct, Whistleblower Protection Act is there, merit-based hiring and promotion, many independent body to oversight to monitor the functions. All these arrangements also have been made, but in this regard, there is requirement of effective implementation. So this way the conclusion has to be made on the basis of suggestive mode for the improvement. Next is 7C, and is related to use of electronics, use of computer in course of improvement in the efficiency of government administration. That is the ICT can harness the power of artificial intelligence to execute the policies more intelligently, thereby creating an effective government. So, use of ICT will harness the power of AI, and that will help to execute the policies in more intelligent way and in efficient and effective way. So that means the use of electronic system, computer system will improve the efficiency. But it is not free from limitations. So examine the challenges. What are the challenges or the limitations in course of use of technology, that is ICT? And the challenges are: data privacy and security, data privacy and security. Ethical concern is one of the very important challenge. So that human dimension is totally compromised. This challenge of regulating it. So regulatory and legal challenges. Regulatory and legal challenges. Skill and talent gap. Constants of cost. So cost and budgetary constant, because that happens to be very costly. Cost and budgetary gap. Problem of interoperability. Resistance to change, because the older people do not respond to this. It becomes difficult for them to accommodate with the new technology. Transparency and accountability. Public trust. Problem of public trust. Digital divide is another problem. So a lot of such issues are there in the perspective of use of ICT. Although with the use of ICT, the AI could bring a lot of precision and effectiveness, but that human dimension, for which Foley has suggested that depersonalization and repersonalization required, will be difficult to be tackled, accommodated by the AI. So a lot of challenges are there. But it has got a lot of importance and effectiveness in course of performing the task. So with the accommodation of those ethical, humanistic dimensions, the ICT and AI could be of extreme use, of most important use for the effectiveness of task performance of the government. Next question. This is again from the side of financial administration. The management of sound public finance used to be backbone of administrative system. Management of sound public finance used to be sound backbone of administrative system, but unfortunately it has become the prisoner of the populist policy. So impact of the politics is there. So there is need to define sound public finance. Sound public finance. So in course of budgeting, accountability, auditing, debt management, all those are the dimensions. And that has been a prison in the hands of the politics. Populist policies are there. Like all those short-term gains. Short-term gains for the reason of political gains. And wherein the populist policies are there, like we find the freebies are there, new schemes are introduced for gains. There is issue of intergenerational equity, issue of intergeneration equity. Lot of expenditure are used for the vote maximization in election year and all. So all these different populist policies are there. And those are there to affect the public finance. Those are there to affect the public finance. These populist policies and the sound policies, sound public finance policies are affected. Though we find that the politics is again necessary. So therein the accommodation is required. So politics happen to be equally important. So it should be more responsive, and accountability over the administration should be ensured. And as the policies are to be decided by the political executive, government, which is there to perform its functions on the basis of its political ideology, political agenda, political objectives. So it has become a prisoner of populist policies. The next is that is related to woman empowerment. The woman empowerment is essential for sustainable development. And so it has not to be reflected only in programs, but promoting concrete actions to ensure the participation across institutions and communities critically examined. So, core of the question is women empowerment, and is very important for the development of the society, or say sustainable development of the society. Now, it should not just be asserted, means should be asserted and the programs are there on paper. Rather, concrete action should be taken to ensure participation across institutions and communities. So herein, importance of women empowerment. Importance of women empowerment is to be referred, and the interconnection, or say reciprocal condition, complementary condition, that whether the woman empowerment, the development of society is there and sustenance is possible. And then some references of scholars, Vandana Shiva, could be given. And in course of that, the initiatives those have been taken for the development, empowerment of women. So programs of women empowerment. Programs of women empowerment, like the cognitive, the economic, the political, the social dimensions, with the references of that awareness regarding health issues, regarding domestic violence, protection, right, like SHG, ASA workers. Then economic dimension, gender budgeting reference, Prime Minister Awas Yojana, PMAY. Then political dimension of empowerment, mainstreaming of the woman to evolve gender equity. Some references of the social development, social empowerment, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. So these are the different programs of women empowerment. But these short-term measures taken are not sufficient for the sustainability of the society. And today, focus is on woman-led development to achieve sustainable development goals, with the reference of participation for governance. We find that even just some days before, Women Reservation Bill has been passed. So to ensure participation across the areas. So not only the institutions but the communities also. And then we find that the reservations have been made for the representation of women in Panchayati Raj and urban bodies. And now the reservation is there in Lok Sabha, center and state legislatures also. So legislative reservations in legislature, and the objective is to increase the representation of women by 2020. So 46% of the women got representation, and is further to increase in the local bodies. In administration, being inclined to orientation, Camilla Stevens is there to propose that. And then in course of economic participation, so Startup India or SHG. So in course of this, the institutional participation is required to be increased for the empowerment of women. And that should come up, and in course of that, the Women Reservation Bill could be the best example. And then for the participation in communities, so a lot of such initiatives are there, like environmental protection, and then participation in civil society. And then those the sustainable development goals and all those goals of SDG. So with the help of that, it should come up on ground, which are not there practically, reaching to the woman to empower. And then 8C, again that is with the personnel administration. Okay, that training is not a sought, rather it is a step-by-step process of developing skills, habits, knowledge and aptitude. That is efficiency of the individual. So define training. And its objective. Automatically that will lead to this, that it is not a short term or something of immediate nature. It is there to generate skill, it is there to upskill. That is to instill desire to work, improvement in attitude and aptitude in the perspective of the responsibility, getting prepared for future responsibilities. So in course of that, the reference could be made that of the Assessment Committee. Recommendations. Those are there to define the objectives. And then describe how is it not a short-term affair. How is it not a short-term affair? That changing job role or roles from rank classification to position classification, that has been proposed by ARC. And arranging everything by that way and getting trained is very difficult. It's not that much easy. And it's not a matter of short-term affair. On the other hand, for the reason of the rank classification condition of working, diverse responsibilities are there. Wide responsibilities have been given to. And for all of them, getting trained is a difficult phenomenon. Persons get promoted to their levels of incompetence, that is Peter's principle. So counter Peter's principle, increasing wicked problem with the reference of Rittel and Weber, that unique and complex problems are there, and those require a lot of effort, and for that immediate change is not possible. Climate challenge is one of them. Rather, it's a stepwise process, and thereby setting the target, keeping the target into consideration, the training is given, and then performance is there, and then evaluation is there. Based upon the evaluation, the gaps those are there in training is required to be again given. So it's a stepwise process, because the training is an art that is received in course of the training program. And every individual, every incumbent will have exact and efficient same system of attainment is not possible. And all these help in building skills, habit, knowledge, aptitude. So it improves the communication skill, leadership skill, decision making skill. It improves ethical habits, makes thought process, ideas, views citizen centric. Informs in different dimensions of their responsibilities, different domain competence is improved. And it evolves the aptitude of the civil servants in the perspective of public good. And therein we find the reference of Mission Karmyogi. Another, say, reforms, those have been suggested by means of ARC2 and all in course of personnel administration and improvement in training are supposed to be included, should be supposed to be referred in the answer. So that brings us to the end of the paper 1 public administration 2023 discussion. Thank you.